Welcome everyone back to another episode of Market Talk. If this is your first time here, I'm Jay Frank, along with my business partner Jeffrey Kalafut. We have Robert Schneider from Silex Financial, aka Bob the Broker, Joe Valenti from Tabachak Law, specializing in real estate law. And we are here to give you the inside track of what we think the market is doing and where we're going. So we got a lot to cover, gentlemen. Thank you everyone for joining us, and let's get into it. So, um, Bob, let's talk
Yes.
about mortgage rates.
They've come down a little bit. They've trickled down there, and they've been kind of bouncing around the low to mid sixes on a 30-year fixed mortgage, depending on the situation. So they've come down some. They've settled down. It's kind of been mostly quiet over the last couple of months. I mean, with this kind of, we call it range bound. And I think everybody's waiting to see where some of these new policies go, tariffs, things like that. Everybody's a little concerned about which way the economy is going to go with all this jerking back and forth.
Mhm.
So I guess it's been kind of range bound down here. So yeah, rates are at least they're not in the sevens anymore. They've settled down a bit.
That's good. So we're seeing inflation around 2.6 right now,
Right.
right around that mark. The Fed is looking for a 2%. That threshold of getting it to 2% could really stimulate the market as well, and also potentially bring down more interest rates. Um, if it does come down even more, do you see more activity now than you did when it was at 7, or has it basically stayed the same?
I don't think the rates are really an issue here. So I've said that for a while. Rates aren't an issue. The issue is purely inventory. There are
Hmm.
buyers out there. There are buyers making offers. There are multiple offers on every house, as you guys can attest to.
Hmm.
No one even talks about when I talk to them. They don't talk about rates. Only people that talk about rates are the people who have the twos and the threes and are at the point where they want to move. But when we have the conversation and they run the numbers, they don't want to sell,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
I don't blame them. I don't blame them either. So
No, I don't either.
it's tough. It's tough to get someone out of a 2 or a 3. The motivation really has to be there, or a job relocation, or family has to relocate for some reason. Yeah, it's the 2s and the 3s. It's a hard rate to get rid of for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but I think you hit on one thing right there that we keep harping on is inventory,
yep.
right? I mean, if you go back historically, we're looking, we'll use the Garden State MLS for a reference. Just one MLS New Jersey, January of 2022, there were over 9,000 listings in it, right? And now, January of this year, there were 3,200. So, I mean, there's a significant drop in available homes in a very short period of time.
Hmm.
We need more inventory. I had a gentleman reach out to me recently, about the market. He's a member of FDNY. He's looking to, purchase his first home. He's like, hey, is the market going to crash? And I laughed. I'm like, no, especially in our area. Like, we're so safe. And I explained these things, like the number of homes we sold countrywide, in an age across the country was what, 4.1 million last year, somewhere in that range.
Hmm.
And the number of buyers that are just sitting on the sidelines still, it's astronomical. So market's not going to change. I think the rates, if they tick down a little bit, will help, but I don't think that's the driving force right now at all.
No,
Hmm.
I don't either. I'm taking a break. How often do you hear that? I'm taking a break from looking.
Yeah,
They're all
it's
out there still. They're taking a break.
Right. Well,
yeah.
and some people I've noticed too, like some of my first time home buyers with a lower price point, mortgage, they're very quickly getting priced out of buying a home because those lower price points just keep going higher and higher and
Yeah.
higher. So where do you start now for a first time home buyer? It is really hard to get an offer accepted.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, an example of that, one of our colleagues inside of our organization, um, in North Caldwell, multiple offer situation. He went 350,000 over asking, and he was in the top 10. He didn't get the property. They didn't get the property. 350K over asking. And I know we mentioned this a couple of times, kind of beating a dead horse, that the Northeast, it's its own animal. We are definitely seeing inventory increase in other states, and list prices. There are doing price reductions in other states, but the Northeast is still its own beast for sure. And yeah, there's just inventories extremely low for sure.
I feel like I get someone sends me an article every week about this house just sold with X amount of offers, 180, 250, $310,000 over. That's like the new thing. These articles about it. We know.
Oh,
It's
we know.
it's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say one other thing. I've been just starting to advise my clients to not even think about the ask price or the offer. What they're asking is, means nothing anymore. So, because some of them are scared to, well, if I go $30,000 over ask, well, you got to go over ask, and you got to know what you feel the house is worth to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they had, for the long term too, they had to look at the national appreciation of, national average of appreciation in the United States is around 3.4%. But in the Northeast, it is 7.2%. So if they are thinking about going 30,000 over, my next question to them is, all right, well, are you guys planning on living here only for a year or 2
How
years?
long are you gonna be there? Yeah.
Right.
No. So if that appreciation keeps accumulating over time, how long would it take to make that 30,000 over ask price to return back in equity in the property? So
I think a lot of the fear, though, too, like, comes back to that question I got: was the market going to crash? Like, everybody has this thought, this mentality still in their heads, like, oh, like, what this has got to just come down, crashing down around us. But again, the Northeast, like our area that we work, it's I don't see anything that's going to cause that to happen.
yeah,
It's straight up supply and demand.
supply and demand. Joe, what are you seeing, in your perspective in transactions right now?
Am I frozen? Sorry. I think I was
No.
frozen. Yeah. All right. So yeah, I mean, I'm seeing the New York market, which is always ahead of the Jersey market a few months, give or take, depending on the circumstances. I'm seeing that pretty active. And usually that triggers or would be a signal that New Jersey is going to have a similar type of reaction for the spring market, right? But I think right now what you're still having is the lack of inventory problem is just driving every deal to be what it shouldn't, right? Like these crazy over asking prices, which a lot of hypertension still on them, and everything comes back to how do we get more inventory? And I think ultimately there's a lot of factors that play into that, but I think sellers do have a pause right now with what we kind of referenced earlier with what's the market going to do, inflation. I think there are a lot of considerations long term that are heightened right now. People are like, okay, selling is a big move. So if life is okay and you're comfortable where you are now, do we really have to move? Like, I think a lot of sellers are saying that. They're kind of like, well, let's just see what happens. Let's see what happens in the next 6 months. And then 6 months turns into a year. And I feel like that's why the inventory is the problem that we have, right? There's a lot of driving factors behind that. The cost of everything is rising. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So if you're a family and you have a few kids, daycare costs the cost of living is just, even from 2 years ago, is exponentially higher. So it is like the extra 3,000 a month or whatever that people may have had. I don't know if they have that anymore, unless their income went up, proportionally. And I think that is a driving force right now. People are just scared about making a drastic decision, and then something happens and they're not comfortable with money anymore. So they're kind of standing pat, dealing with the situation they have. But that being said, things are still active. I mean, there's new deals coming in every week. It's a busy market. I'm busy, but I still think there's this period of time we're going to see. I don't know when it's going to be, but it's going to explode. It's going to be a 2020, 2021 type of market that we had. It's just, when is that going to happen?
Yeah, I think there also are some things looming in the background that we do have to pay attention to, is especially in New Jersey. Governor Murphy potentially increasing the mansion tax from 1 to
Right.
2%. How, because almost every house in New Jersey right now is at that $1 million threshold. How is that, how is that going to affect the market?
That needs to be increased. That $1 million mark is no longer a mansion in New Jersey, and it
Right.
hasn't been for quite some time.
Yeah. It's that's crazy. And then you got other states, Florida, for example. Ron DeSantis came out and is possibly trying to get rid of property taxes. Like you
Right.
have one spectrum of, the United States and New Jersey increasing, taxes and the mansion tax. And then you have another state saying, hey, we might get rid of property taxes. I don't know how they'll do it, but the probability of the mansion tax going through is a higher probability of and higher probability than getting rid of property taxes in Florida. So that's something, how is that going to affect the market?
That mansion tax is crazy. I mean, I never used to talk about it. And every conversation I talk about with new clients, I talk about the mansion tax, just warn them, let them know. And it's funny, a lot of them will go, well, I'm not going to go up to $1 million. And sure enough, a couple of weeks later, they're putting an offer in over $1 million on a property and just dealing with the mansion tax. But where's all that money going to is what I want to know.
it's
Right?
it's
New
crazy.
Jersey. It's New Jersey. Who knows where it's going to?
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be increased revenue. They're making a ton of money on it.
Right. And how much does the New Jersey population get squeezed before they jump ship? I don't know. I mean,
I mean,
Listen, we have business partners all over the place. We're happy to sell your house and send you down south.
right.
it comes with a tan. There you go.
Well, I'll tell you though, I mean, it's always been an expensive state to live in, and people still stay, right? You would think it would have happened during COVID because people were able suddenly to work from anywhere, but that's changing again. So I don't know. I don't know. Are people really going to jump ship? You always have people say, "Oh, I'm moving to the Carolinas. It's cheaper."
Yeah, I say that every day.
Well, I know someone that can sell your house.
Yeah. 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 I mean, we'll definitely have to see what happens in the next couple of months, but I do think the mansion tax is going to give people a pause or a stutter step of like, wait, how much do we got to pay for this out of pocket? It's the
Yeah,
2%
That's
is
another level. Yeah, it's getting crazy.
that's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, Jay, we got to talk about our last listing in Englewood too here because we're talking about inventory. And, I don't know if Bob and Joe are aware, but like we had over 350 showings on one property in 3 days. Fixer upper needs a full gut renovation, listed at 300,000, and we had, what do we have? 85 plus offers.
Yep.
Wow.
Right. So, and these people they're all investors. They're all, I felt like we were running an eBay auction. It got insane. It's listed at 3. Can't really disclose the final sale price yet, but it's going to be north of 500 cash.
The investors are begging to find something. I mean,
Yeah. And we
it's
saw
hard for them to compete with the emotional primary home buyers.
the crazy thing is we saw such a spectrum of offers too, and some of them made sense to us. Others, we can't make sense of it. Like I don't know what their game plan is. But it was just intense. I was literally ready to throw my phone into, out of my car window one day because the phone just was blowing up nonstop.
Yeah.
I think investors have the mentality with that. See, the two type of properties that you see the crazy action on is that type of property, and then a gut renovated property. So they're saying, whatever, let's just win the battle, and then the battle will be fought for the renovation once we do it. We'll get it all back in the back end.
Yeah. I mean, when we priced a property, it was a broad spectrum to strategically figure out what would be the investor strategy. Obviously, the buy and hold or the fix and flip. So we had to look at both of those spectrums, and then also the appreciation rate year over year in the area. If that's around a 7% or an 8%, like as even in a multiple, because most of them were buy and holds, right? They're not, the quick flip the margins would have been too small, but these guys are buy and hold, and then ride out the appreciation, ride out the neighborhood market increase in value as well. And it's just a good place to, you know, hide their money or put their money also for
Mhm.
the depreciation of that rental and property year over year. So the whole spectrum of why this was such a chaotic listing is because one, the price point and the location and the potential of that property over the years to come. So because there's no land there, so it's high demand. But
Yeah,
it
no,
was
it was incredible.
it was chaotic,
Yeah.
chaotic, and we had some people approach us with some unethical terms. Let's just say that.
We literally saw the worst of our industry in those first 5 days it was on the market. It was
Mhm.
ridiculous. From the buyers themselves to some of the agents involved. I mean, I'm like, this is just insane.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that going on, unfortunately.
All the agents wanted us to represent them. You guys, you do it. I'm like, we're not. No, we did not represent one buyer in this.
Yeah.
It was just too crazy. We're just going to represent the seller, and that's it.
Yeah, we didn't want the lines to get blurred at
No.
all.
Mm.
So, but yeah, it's an interesting time. We'll have to obviously watch the economy, watch what inflation does, interest rates do, and then also what the individual states are going to do in regards to taxes, especially the mansion tax. Got to
Yeah.
keep an eye on that. Um, but yeah, it's a interesting time to say the least. And I do feel for, a lot of buyers that have just been put through the gauntlet. And sometimes they're 1 year or 2 years into trying to find something and they're exhausted, but if they stay persistent and they learn from that time frame, they can move, it will increase their odds eventually. So it,
Yeah,
Well,
I would be shocked on the mansion tax if it went to 2%. I think they're just doing that to soften the blow when it goes up to 1.25%. I
yeah,
mean, New York is right across the river. Like you can't go from 1% to 2% when New York has a mansion tax policy where it's 1% at a million and then at 2 million it's 1.25%. You can't just have a blanket 2% mansion. It's not going to fly. Like it's
mm,
not.
I
yeah,
hope you're right.
yeah, I agree.
I think
It's a lot.
New York and New Jersey don't. At the end of the day, they don't vary too much from each other because they're kind of sister states. At the end of the day, there's going to be an
Right.
uproar. There is.
yeah. Anybody want to add anything that we didn't talk about?
No, I would say that you know I get clients who want to put offers in on houses, and they send me. I do the pre-approval for the offer, and when I get them and it's at or below ask price, it's a tough line. I mean, I can't go back to them and say you're not going to win this, but I just kind of want to. I kind of want to say to them, if you're not willing to go over ask price, and that's a hard conversation, then maybe you shouldn't be looking at this time.
Yeah. Honestly, you shouldn't be the one having to say that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I
Um,
was going to say. Yeah.
That's our job to discuss those things as real estate agents and go over the comps and say why.
yep.
And then if they still fight back and they want us to write an offer, we do what we have to do, of course, but we tell them like the sooner, Jay and I say it all the time, the sooner you listen to our advice, the sooner you're going to
Yeah.
get a house. Plain and
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah, when I do hear that, I hear that there's been a step missed in the buying process of education. We focus heavily on education, like Jeff just said. The faster or the more knowledgeable you are, the higher probability you're going to get what you want, or not waste your time or be frustrated or disappointed. So I think as real estate agents, we have to deal with reality and teach the consumer of what the circumstances are now and how to navigate those at a high level. So
Yeah, especially, I mean, right now with that competitiveness that we're facing, like you have to put together a solid offer on a property to even stand a chance.
mhm.
We're celebrating top five finishes at this point. It's like,
Yeah.
I was in the top five. That's great.
That
Yeah.
is, being number two is even better. I mean, like, because often the person who comes in second gets it, because the amount of buyer's remorse we're seeing out there, buyers who get their offer accepted and then in the turn of review back out, is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of fall through.
Yeah. And that also goes back to preparation as well. You
Yeah,
you almost like, I don't know, I don't know if I'm going to frame this correctly, but I almost have my clients convince me that they should make an offer. Tell me, like, you really like, really like it. Why do you like it? And just if you do these things up front, the probability of it falling through, unless there's something massive in home inspection, it's most likely going to go through, because there's a detachment between just winning it because of winning something, and then there's actually the realization of like, this is what we really want. We're not just trying to win the offer, we're trying to win the house because we love the house. So there has to be some kind of, education in the mindset around when you're putting offers in as well. Because then, yeah, a lot of things are just going to fall through and it's just going to be a nightmare for everybody, for everybody. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting time. And the thing too is, we mentioned this before on the call, of agent fatigue. Especially, when we see, Jeff and I see so many offers, we can tell very quickly what agents are fatigued, because we look at the contracts. There's so much missing, so many things missing, and
A
just
nightmare.
it's a nightmare. And they don't the the agents who are receiving all these offers are judging those agents,
Yeah.
and we're going, who has the highest probability of, they have all their stuff together, who has the highest probability to get to the closing table. We are clearly judging on how those offers and those contracts are filled out. If they're filled out properly and everything, all the T's are crossed, I's are dotted, we're like, oh my God, yes, this is a good agent, this is a good buyer, I think we should move forward with them.
Yeah,
So
the lack of professionalism in our industry is probably at an all-time high with some of the people. It's just they're just getting lazy, not doing the basics. It's the agents who continually just to push through and literally just show their worth, and not just with their clients, but when they're presenting an offer.
mhm.
Like, you have to be polished. You have to be educated in the market conditions. You have to know what you're talking about, and you have to present yourself the right way.
Mhm.
And it's not that hard, really. It's not hard to do.
I spoke with an agent last week. We had the conversation about treating it like a business. That both of our sides, most people don't treat it like a business. If you treat it like a business, you make sure you have a polished offer come in,
Mhm.
right? Like it's a business. That you just said it. You want to see polished offers when you get offers, and they should be doing that for their clients. And you know, everything you do should be treated like it's your business and you want to shine, right?
Yeah. I
Mhm.
mean, every real estate agent in New Jersey is an entrepreneur. Some of them just don't realize it. They're their
Yeah,
own boss.
Yep.
They're their
that's a
own
great way
boss.
to put it.
You know?
They think that they're their own boss, so they can work when they want to.
Yeah. Yeah. That part, I always say my boss is an asshole because I work too much.
Right.
Yeah. And you see these agents with that fatigue mentality, and a lot of times it all stems from the first conversation that they're having with that client. If they don't have an honest and open dialogue with their client of what to prepare them and educate them on the process, the agent, when they're putting these offers together, they go, I know this isn't going to get accepted. So they don't really care. So they're
Yeah.
just throwing these contracts. Yeah, here you go. It's in.
Mhm.
Whereas if you educate the client and you're preparing them and everyone's firing on all cylinders and are all on the same page, you know that when you're putting that offer together, that person has a higher probability. So that agent is taking the time to fill that contract out diligently and want to make it look good because it has a higher probability. So everything starts in the beginning when educating the client, and how that correlates through the entire process is so important. And unfortunately, especially with the new changes and the commission structures and all this stuff, a lot of agents haven't taken the time to navigate all that, or even navigate that for themselves, or even be able to explain that to their clients. So it's all stemming from lack of preparation of the client. and agents just really need to take the time to navigate and know all the ins and outs of how it all works. So
You have to know the framework to operate your business, plain and simple.
yeah,
If there's rules and regulations and they're there for a reason, plug and play and just get stuff done.
yep. All right, guys, I got about 7 text message I have to respond to shortly. Anything else we want to add before we jump off here?
No.
Going
That's
once,
about it.
Yeah.
going twice. All right. Well, everyone, thanks for joining us today. It was a pleasure, and we look forward to seeing what comes in the future.
If anybody has any questions, information will be below. Remember, all right? Contact us. We're here for you.
All right. Thanks for
Take